Julian Walker wrote asking, how can a Christian write about sex or violence without glorifying it? And this is an incredibly important question for Christians, but it's also not a question that's exclusive to Christians. I mean, most people, most film goers, most readers will struggle with their own personal line. You know, when have you crossed this line? When have you watched a film that had too much sex? When have you watched a film or read a book that just had too much violence? And so this isn't a question that's exclusive to Christian readers, but it is a question that has a slipperiness about it. And the most dangerous thing and the easiest thing that we Christians can do is to begin to make a prescription, you know, to draw lines. This reminds me of that question regarding pornography. And someone was asked to define pornography, and they kind of went back and forth and wrestled with the subject, and eventually they said, I'm not sure how to define pornography, I just know it when I see it. And I think this question about gratuitous violence, or when are you glorifying violence, when are you glorifying sex, I think this question has a similar slipperiness. The worst thing we could do as Christians is to make a checklist. You know, you are glorifying violence when you do this. And then we have a checklist, you know, show 3 beatings, 1 beheading, 1 rape, and 1 car wreck. Then you're glorifying violence. Or you're glorifying sex when you show intercourse, when you have crude language, when you make a rude gesture or a crude gesture. And we have this checklist, and I really think that's the worst thing we could do. The bottom line is that this is a matter of conscience. It's a matter of conscience for the writer. It's a matter of conscience for the reader. As a writer, I need to know when I am crossing into that threshold of what I feel is gratuitous. I am just glorifying sex. And no amount of sex and no amount of violence is going to make up for a bad story or a slim plot line. And that's the issue. A lot of writers do resort to more sex and violence just to make up for weakness in their story. That's a given. But for me as a writer, I just need to know where that threshold is. And you as a reader need to know where your threshold is. The issue is that your threshold and my threshold are going to be different. And so I'd answer that by saying it's just a matter of conscience, and the worst thing we can do is to make a checklist for everybody and impose that checklist on everybody.